Hello, 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 and welcome. This is our second show, our second attempt, I should say, at the mystery of Roanoke Island and related cases. Last show we were kicked offline by a storm that came up out of the blue. So anyway, I am Shane Moore, and this is the Texarcist, and I'm with...
And I am Sue Ellen.
And we are going to hopefully knock your socks off with a very, very mysterious set of circumstances that that just seemingly doesn't make sense. But many people say that the settlers in 1587 to 1590, somewhere between those years, that they seemingly vanished into thin air, and that's just not the case. I mean, something happened to them, or that caused that, or there is an explanation. Maybe they did vanish into thin air. I don't know, but it's the connected cases that it's the cases that are connected to this that are really chilling.
They were all supposed to write something. It was supposed to be a cross, right? Like a Celtic cross, or
right, Maltese cross, to let them know that if to let John White go, and we will get into that when we come back, as if they went peacefully, or if they were forced to go somewhere, and the Maltese cross wasn't there, which was the sign that they went willingly,
friendly, and assimilated, and they got back.
Right. And but
that wasn't the case. Instead, they found the word, the crow, and CRO.
Right, which we will get to all that when we come back, but we're going to give it take a quick break and allow listeners who want to join our live chat to do so and take part. This is our 100th episode, and please feel free to take part, ask questions, give us your theories on these disappearances and this mass disappearance, as well as others. This is related to Edgar Allan Poe, Ameilia Earhart, Ambrose Bierce, and several others, which we will also talk about. So just kick back and get comfortable, and we will be back and talk about this very intriguing mystery. So we'll see you in 3 minutes. And we are back. Hello, Mona. You're here, but only for a few minutes. Oh, that's fine. Anyway, the mystery of Roanoke Island is something that has always been fascinated me, simply because I'm just like that. Anything unexplained, anything that hasn't been solved, I'm on it. And I guess I'm obsessive like that. What about you, Sue Ellen? Are you the same way?
Yeah, and I actually, I found out about Roanoke Island. I don't know how you heard about it, but it was actually from a Netflix show called Haven, and then later it was in the TV show Supernatural.
Right.
So,
I learned about it by reading encyclopedia as a kid, but I really wasn't that. It didn't catch my attention until I saw the Stephen King movie Storm of the Century, where the bad guy supposedly was the one that led to their mass disappearance. Stephen King in the movie of the book writes that this guy, which is like the devil, leads them 2 by 2 to walk into the ocean and drown themselves. And so I started looking into it, and after that, and it's just really captivated me. But this is the actual information backstory of the mystery of Roanoke Island. Sometime in August of 1587, 116 English men, women, and children arrived on Roanoke Island off the coast of what is now Dare County, North Carolina, in what was to be the first American settlement. Previous attempts at forming any kind of lasting settlement in the New World were unsuccessful. The local Native American tribes some of the local Native American tribes were hostile towards the new settlers. The Roanoke colony, also known as the Lost Colony, was first established in 1585. The first birth in the New World was that of Virginia Dare on August the 18th, 1587, which would be today, August the 18th. And this is very strange. This is very strange too, okay? We did try to do this show Thursday, and were knocked off by, it wasn't even a storm, it was just a bolt of lightning and thunder, and I look and I see we've been knocked offline. Lost connection for like 2 hours. So, we said, well, we'll just do it Sunday night. Okay, well, it just so happens that the first birth in the New World was August the 18th, which is today, 1587, of Virginia Dare. She was the granddaughter of John White. Okay? Now, in 1587, the population of the Roanoke colony was 116 people. However, it was abandoned sometime before August 1590 and found completely abandoned 3 years later on August the 18th, 1590. August the 18th today, which is, you talk about synchronicity. I mean, so it's like maybe we were meant to do it today. I mean, I didn't even realize it until I noticed the date, and I'm like, wow. So it says it was found.
You caught it too.
Huh?
You caught both of them. That August 18th was not only her birth date, but that was, you said, was the day of the disappearance, or?
It was the day that her grandfather, John White, returned from England on a trip for supplies. He returned, and everybody was gone. Everybody. 115 people gone. And
including her.
Yeah. Mona says, "Whoa, the coincidences and dates are mind blowing." Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, they are.
I didn't plan it. I looked at the date and I'm like, wow, because I didn't plan this. For
such a good
Sunday.
eye for seeing that stuff.
Well,
that's awesome.
Well, thank you. I look at numbers and words, and I look for patterns. So, but 115 men, women, and children seemingly vanished into thin air, and their fate remains a mystery unknown to this day, almost 430 years later. The initial settlement was established in the summer of 1585. It's actually 1584. There were 15 people. And then 1585, there were several attempts, I'll say that. But a lack of supplies and bad relations with the local Native Americans caused many of its members to return to England with Sir Francis Drake a year later, leaving behind a small detachment of 15 men. These men had all disappeared by the time a second expedition led by John White, who also served as the colony's governor, arrived in July 1587. White, whose granddaughter Virginia Dare, who was born there shortly thereafter, making her the first English child born in the New World, left for England in late 1587 to request assistance from the government, but was prevented from returning to Roanoke until August 1590 due to the Anglo-Spanish War. Upon his arrival, the entire colony was missing, with only a single clue to indicate what happened to them. The discovery of the word Croatoan carved into a palisade board and Crow, C-R-O, carved into a tree. There were 90 men, 17 women, and 11 children that vanished. Seeming they were gone. Nothing. No traces ever been found of them. And there's many theories online about that it's been solved, but it has not been solved. There's currently a Roanoke, a lost colony DNA project that is going on right now, where they're trying to locate. They haven't found anything. It is amazing. It's just incredible. Hey, Patricia, glad you joined us.
Hi.
But what is very, very strange is that all of the houses and the fortifications of the colony had been neatly dismantled. Okay, thank you for being here, Mona, for as long as you could be.
Bye, Mona.
See you later. But all of the houses, the buildings, the fortifications had been neatly dismantled, which meant that their departure had not been hurried. Before White left the colony, he instructed the colonists that if anything happened to them, they should carve a Maltese cross on a tree nearby, indicating that their absence had been forced.
Right.
Okay, there was no cross. And White took this to mean that they had moved to Croatoan Island, which is now known as Hatteras Island, but he was unable to conduct a search. And get this, a massive storm was forming, and his men refused to go any further. The next day they left. So it was a massive storm that came up that prevented him from going to Croatoan Island, which is now Hatteras Island, to investigate what exactly happened storm kept him from it. And so he returned to England, I believe, with basically no his questions. It just remains a mystery. So, but it is,
and then there's, and like you said, then not only are there the weird things that are related that you're telling us now, but then you go into people like Ameilia Earhart and Edgar Allan Poe,
right?
And how could they be related in all this thing?
Right. Well, this was the mass disappearance. Hey, Randy, glad you joined us. All right. This was
Hi, Randy.
This was 115 people that just there's been no bones, no skeletons, nothing found. So people say, well, they went insane. They killed each other. They were massacred by the Native American tribes. Even if they were, there would be bones, there would be skeletons, there would be something, but there's nothing, not a trace. Now, just bear with me, because I want to talk about people missing, or people that vanish, that seemingly vanish into thin air. And it's like the national parks, like all of the people that are vanishing to this day in our national parks. Well, they're not really ours anymore. We sold them to
in our national park. But I'm sure this is going to go even further. To children missing in countries like Belgium.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is,
and people that are missing also in the U.S. and throughout the world that haven't been tracked correctly.
Right. There was a man in 18. Let's see. Let me get this right. I want to get the years right. I believe it was 1843. Selma, Alabama. His name was Orion Williamson. And I'm sorry, it was July 1854, Selma, Alabama. It was a hot, sunny afternoon when Orion Williamson, his wife and son, relaxed on the porch of their farmhouse. The family watched the horses graze under the sunshine in the distance. It was then Orion stood up and ventured towards the grassy field to tell his farm worker to move the horses into a shaded area. Williamson picked up what is described as a stick lying nearby and began to play with it as he walked forward. Armour Wren and his son James were the neighbors of the Williamson family. They were passing by in a buggy when they too saw Williamson walk into the field. The Wrens stopped to wave hello, and as Williamson waved back to his neighbors, he suddenly disappeared, vanishing without a trace in thin air. Wren rushed to the spot where Orion Williamson last stood, soon joined by Mrs. Williamson and their child. They scoured the area hoping to find the lost farmer, but it was simply grass and land, as if Williamson had never been there. What just occurred was impossible to explain. How could a grown man completely vanish in front of his family and neighbors? Where did he go? Where was he? With the sudden realization and shock from what had happened to her husband, Mrs. Williamson fainted and was taken to the local hospital. When word of the mysterious disappearance spread throughout town, 300 people gathered and went to the field to look for Mr. Williamson. The crowd carefully searched the entire area. Bloodhounds tracked every turn. Hours passed and darkness came. but still no sign of the poor farmer. Torches were lit, and the search continued day and night, but still no sign of Orion Williamson. The next day, more citizens from communities outside of Selma came to participate in the search. Volunteers went as far as digging into the ground where Williamson disappeared, only to find bedrock. Eventually, the search parties gave up. Orion Williamson was never found, dead or alive. The next spring, investigators returned to the site and oddly saw a barren and dry patch of grass nearby where Orion last stood. When Mrs. Williamson learned of this, she related to them that she and her son kept hearing her husband's voice calling out for help weeks after he disappeared. But every time they ran to that spot, they could not find him. She said she kept hearing his voice until it slowed down and gradually faded away. Whatever happened to Orion Williamson? Some investigators developed theories to explain the mystery. One hypothesized that an unstable universal ether was responsible that could disintegrate matter. Another claim proposed a magnetic field transported the missing man to another dimension. And it just goes on and on and on. Now, I want to you pick up because there were several people that supposedly investigated this, but one in particular was the horror writer, short story author Ambrose Bierce. Went and investigated the Williamson case. And, I'm not sure what he learned or what he found out, but Ambrose Bierce, this is ironic, but Ambrose Bierce, who wrote a satire to the event of the disappearance of Orion Williamson, also disappeared, seemingly vanished into thin air more than 50 years later in 1914 under different circumstances. But the question remains, whatever happened to Orion Williamson? Now, that's kind of the backstory to what I'm about to get to, and that is Ambrose Bierce. Ambrose Bierce was the horror writer, much like Poe, and he traveled to Chihuahua, Mexico, and began writing letters to his, I believe it was his niece and friends, that he was traveling to an unknown destination, and seemingly excited about it. Wasn't, didn't seem to be afraid or anything. Okay. What is very strange about that is that the bed that he last slept in Mexico, when he vanished, he had carved the word Croatoan on one of the bedposts in the bed that he last slept in, and Ambrose Bierce vanished, was never found, and remains missing to this day.
That's crazy.
That is creepy, crazy. And then, in 1849, Edgar Allan Poe, of course, at that time he wasn't famous. But Edgar Allan Poe was found on the streets of Baltimore, seemingly very, very sick, incoherent. Possibly they think that he may have had rabies or a severe case of the flu, but he was in bad shape. They took him to the hospital, and he died 3 or 4 days later. On his deathbed, his last words were, "Lord, have mercy on my poor soul." And then, supposedly, he whispered his last word, which was supposedly Croatoan. Okay. Now, that's creepy. I mean, we're talking about a mass disappearance of 115 people at least. We're talking about Ambrose Bierce, who carved that into his bedpost. Supposedly Poe, that was his last word that he whispered. And then the stagecoach robber Black Bart served his jail time, prison, sentence. And when he was released, he vanished. Okay, and you can guess that on the wall of his cell, he had carved the word Croatoan. He was never seen again. Okay, fast forward to 1937. Ameilia Earhart, the first female pilot making the transatlantic flight or whatever. She was, setting a record, and so it was. She went missing and just vanished. But in her diary, they found that she had written the word Croatoan. Now, I mean, what is up with that? I mean, what is
insane?
Yeah, I mean, it is. People say, well, it's the name of the island. I beg to differ. It may be the name of an island, but there's something about that word. I don't know if it's an anagram or what, but there's something about that word that has power.
And then check this out. Okay. I've been pawing through Dad's journal. I found something about Roanoke Colony. Dad always had a theory about Croatoan. He thought it was a demon's name, sometimes known as Diva, sometimes as Reshef, a demon of plague and pestilence. That was from Sam Winchester about the Croatoan virus in the Supernatural series. And they said that the Croatoan virus, also dubbed Croatoan, is a demonic disease in the supernatural universe that infects people and turns them into murderous, zombie-like creatures called croaks, with varying degrees of intelligence, ranging from cruel and cunning to savage and mindless. It is transmitted through blood-to-blood contact. However, Sam Winchester is shown to be immune to its effects. Lucifer, Azazel, and Pestilence hope to use this virus to wreak havoc on the earth during the apocalypse, but it was averted by Sam, Bobby, Dean, and Castiel. Those with demon blood are immune to the supernatural illness of demonic origin.
Oh,
and
but that's the show, right?
That's the show Supernatural. And then Supernatural, I mean, they quote things from the Book of the Dead. I mean, they use everything.
Hey, Nazarene. Well, this is something that I'm seeing more and more, and we've talked about this on previous shows, is that the shows that you watch, like the series, movies, whatever, they are becoming more and more. They are written, they're directed, they're produced by not by people that are playing around. I mean, these are like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I mean, the new version is not like the old TV version. This is the real deal.
Yeah, they're using all the real stuff, the real magic, the real words.
the
they're
real
speaking
names,
the words.
the real names. They're showing the actual steps you take as far as rituals and things like that. And I told Mona, I said, whoever wrote this, I said, they're not a novice, and they're not amateurs. They're the real deal. And come to find out, that's exactly right. They, Google it and you'll see that, they're very, very well versed in the occult and in magic and in rituals and Satanism and the demonic. I told Mona, I said, it is, I said, it's really unsettling. I said, because they're using actual names of demons. I mean, that's just crazy. But
yeah, the guy, the actor Vin Diesel.
Yes.
Some crazy demonic kind of movies, but on the back of his neck, he has one of those crazy. He has like a demon sigil that's right on his neck.
Well, there's
so he has. Be looking to if we could probably do another show on that.
There's a lot of tattoos and everything that are just that they're sigils that are that
they're making their own. It's the way that it's all being done,
right.
And it's how it's being, and it's that they're not explaining to us how energy works.
Right. It is basically it's your sigils are what you give your focus and your intent to that are drawn to attract a certain type of energy. Let's say. Some people say demons. Some people say evil spirit. It's really, I guess you could use those terms, but it's really a type, a form, a frequency of negative energy.
Right.
It's
like there's a frequency. There's a weird movie that was out on Netflix too called Frequency, and it was. I mean, in the end, it was really hard to kind of understand the movie. But the guy pretty much controlled everything, all of Earth, just through frequency, from emitting certain frequencies.
Right, absolutely, and
he would be predicting the outcome, the exact words that would be spoken.
Yeah. Well, one thing Patricia says, when the show did actually mention demons' names and all, I felt uncomfortable, didn't know why, but at the time I thought it was all falsified. I guess not. You're right. And that's...
Have you guys ever heard of Savan Bomar?
Yes. Yes.
He's a black... Oh, he moved, not Costa Rica, but
yes.
Place. Yeah. He, in his book that he wrote, that he put on the internet, he said that they started with the Da Vinci Code. That was the first to get people into the magic and get people into the sigils and to draw people in, and that the last book, or the third book, was supposed to be the book that brought out the main demons. But first they had to prime everybody to get their subconscious ready and be already having things happen, that we're not aware of.
Well,
but it was really
that's something that Bomar has some some things that I agree with, but this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, he's gone off on a lot of tangents, but I mean his book he put on the internet, the free book that he went out about energy. I think that one, it talked about his awakening. First, I think that is the most accurate and the most information in that. You can get that for free on the internet.
Well,
but it's about, slowly adding those demons, those sigils, those making them into archetypal symbols, and through releasing enough energy and having enough people together. I mean, like maybe, football games or soccer games or a war, winning a war, or, a commercial that displays all that emotional feeling. You can get a whole bunch of people, like in a big movie theater, watching things, and you create energy.
Well, one thing is that, Patricia said that she felt uncomfortable, and she doesn't know why, but, she, thought at the time that it was all, false. But that's why is that those names and those spells or whatever that they rituals that they do, when they do them, you will notice that there's a big their voice is not, it changes. It goes from high to low, very dramatic. It goes from high to low, deep, somber, to excited and almost ecstatic. And these different rituals that or spells that are said, and their movements, their hand gestures and things like that are affecting you on a subconscious level. I mean, really. And I mean, it sounds like it sounds crazy. It sounds like, oh man, he's just talking about crazy stuff. But no, I could show you on video. I could do certain things myself and put certain things in your mind just by what you see, just by my hand movements, by the words I say, how I say them, which is you could call that witchcraft. You could call it mind control, or you could call it mentalism. It's how you use it. So,
yeah, it's how you use it. It could be a beautiful thing. It could be like a musical, masterpiece if it's done with the right intention, the right heart, mind, and behind it.
Right.
But we're showing all the ugliness.
Right. Well, this like as far as the Roanoke settlers, it's amazing, or it's perplexing to me that their homes, their buildings, fortifications or whatever, were neatly dismantled. They weren't destroyed.
Right, everything was done as if it was just normal.
I can barely hear you.
I said, nothing was done in a rush. Everything was done nice and put away correctly. There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of, anything to indicate.
Which the question is why wasn't that, why were, things left there? Why weren't they taken with them? I mean,
right.
It is, if I had to say, it would be like everything there was somehow cursed or somehow tainted, and nobody wanted to use it. Nobody wanted to take it. Nobody wanted anything, so they just left. I mean, that's very strange. But let's see, Randy, you said there's a girl on YouTube that I've been watching, got a letter that had a weird cross-like symbol, and the wording in it was just weird. Someone commented that it could have been a sigil, and they told her she had permission to read the letter on her channel because they had a different intention behind it. You say, I got a weird feeling when she read it, and others commented the same thing. Well, Yeah, that's
You kind of have to understand what a sigil is. It's just like the Toyota symbol. You know, every owner of a business has, in a sense, a sigil. I mean, like Seven Bomar was teaching that. It's that people are being taught how energy works and how you can get energy and put it into that sigil to create something good for yourself. And like, you know, Shane was saying, it can be used for good, it can be used for evil.
yes, it's oh man, she said, I just got booted again just as Shane started reading my comment. I don't know what the deal is. But it is definitely, it's something that, you know, people you can look into as far as, you know, the lost colony, because, you know, there have been people, there have been mass, you know, disappearances. There's been people that have vanished that have been found like thousands of years later or hundreds of years later. And this just doesn't make sense. Doing, you know, DNA test on different, you know, people, which they currently are, if they assimilated into the Native American tribes, then that DNA would show up. I would think. I mean, but there's been nothing. Now, one very perplexing thing. Hey, Michelle. One very interesting thing is that John White did a painting of the Roanoke, you know, colony, and the way that he painted it was he put it. Let's see how he you know, put it up like it was on a wall. Or I should say, like it was on the horizon. And it's in the shape of none other than a Maltese cross, really. And that's how he you know, painted it. But with their ship on the water, in the ocean, the sea, or whatever you want to call it, sailing towards Roanoke Island. The only thing is if you ask me, it looks like they're sailing into a portal. Yeah. It looks like they are sailing. I've showed this to Sue Ellen. I said, "What does this look like?" And
incredible.
I said, this guy was like, you know, now you have to keep in mind that this was an expedition that Sir Walter Raleigh was responsible for. And so there's politics, there's money, there's future advancement, a lot of different things that this is riding on. And if he fails, or if something doesn't go right, then he's going to lose a lot of money, he's going to lose a lot of status, he's going to lose a lot of future opportunities. So the last thing that he wants to happen, or that John White wants to happen, is to go back and say, hey, you know what? There's something there that's just taking people left and right, Because if he had said that, no one else would have ever come over and be like, to hell with that, want to avoid that land
But
at all cost.
after the disappearance of his granddaughter, he didn't do any more trips there, did he?
I don't believe so. I think that was it.
No.
And but the in 1584 there were they left 15 men, and they went back and they found one skeleton, and 14 men had vanished, disappeared without trace. Nothing was ever found of them. Okay, now what I'm saying is, do you think that John White and his men went back and told these 115 people, yeah, these people, they disappeared. We found a skeleton, of this guy they killed that was obviously killed, but 14, yeah, they just vanished. I don't believe that they were open, that they were straightforward about that. I think it was like, yeah, let's just be tight-lipped, let's not let the cat out of the bag, because if we do, then nobody's going to come with us. But after 115 people disappear, it's kind of hard to continue when you don't have an answer as to what happened to them. So, and then the next settlement was, of course, Jamestown, and then 33 years later was Plymouth Rock. So that's the timeline, or whatever, approximately the timeline. Tricia says, weird question. You mentioned they saw a skeleton. Was it buried? I believe it was partially buried. I believe is what they said. Maybe it was just, maybe it had been there so long that it was just,
Maybe weather or...
Yeah, I don't think that it was, buried as far as, given respect or last rites or everything, But one thing is that the settlers in there was a tribe that was very hostile towards them, and it was the I'm probably going to butcher this, but the Sokotan tribe of Native Americans. Let me see if I can find this. It was the okay. This was in 1584. Let's see. Sir Richard Grenville was placed in charge of the fleet with Ralph Lane as lieutenant governor. Anyway, Grenville or suspected that one of the Native Americans had taken a silver cup and from the settlers, and this was in let's see, this was, well, this would, let's see, this was in a previous attempt, or it was during that time. But what happened is that Grenville said yeah, they, they took or they stole a silver cup. So what happened is they didn't just go back and get the cup. They burned the entire Native American village to the ground. Everything. Which really, really made this tribe, hate them with a passion. I mean, but even then, I mean, it's not like that there was, that, they were murdering people or, killing people left and right, or that would be documented. Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, it's just, one person may have taken a silver cup, but you don't know who, and you burn the entire village down. That's just wrong. But
only imagine how things were back then. You know what I'm saying? The Indians taking over. They have these people coming, settling in their lands, and
right.
Didn't have big, powerful weapons. I mean, it had to be just an intense time. I mean, then you have all the, the fur trading and, the Indians that are working with you, in the economy, kind of like, how a government would. They all work so they could all make money. And then you have the outlaws. And
right.
It was a...
But,
don't imagine.
Go ahead.
No, that was it. I can only imagine how many crazy.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, if I had been the, if I was the, Native Americans, I would be threatened. I mean, I'd be like, who do you think you are? Coming here and just, deciding this is your land. I mean, and plus,
No, and the elders know what that means. The elders, have experience in war, and they, the Indians warred against each other and have, in their oral history of wars, and they know that, the first slippery slope,
right? But
that occurred. The younger ones, were like, no, man, this is just cool stuff. They don't want to take over everything,
Yeah. But but it's like the Queen Elizabeth I, gave them this charter, or gave them instructions that basically said, go and establish a colony. Basically, do what you have to do to take care or tame these barbarian heathens. And I'm like, okay, number one, that's just wrong. I mean, what gives you the right to exalt yourself so high and mighty? It's not your land. They've lived there thousands of years, and you're just going to go in and, hey, they're barbarians. They're beneath us. So just do what you have to do. Basically, take the land. And that's what they did.
And when we were and when I was researching this and reading things on history, is they strategically sent people out. Like before, they sent out, groups of family members to settle, in the group where his granddaughter was born. But then they sent out military and scouting, where they sent people out scouting and told them to go settle over here and see how the Indians are over here. And so a lot more was going on than we were,
right.
Or, a lot always goes on and with the government, and we're never privy to that information.
Exactly right, Randy. You say they don't believe the same way we do, so they're less than we are. That's the mindset, But what the real mindset is no matter if they, if they did have our same beliefs and our same values, it doesn't matter. We're taking the land, we're taking the resources, and they did. And people, you talk about racism.
And they breed. Yep.
They talk about racism. They talk about listen. Nobody has suffered more racism than the American Indians. I mean, come on. It's like Chris Rock says, when's the last time you saw two Indians walking down the street? You haven't. Why? Because that's how much they were decimated. I mean, unless you go to a reservation, you don't see two American Indians walking down the street. No. There's not enough of them. Genocide? You want to talk about genocide? American Indians slaughtered. I mean, men, women, children slaughtered.
And he's giving them, blankets with smallpox and
right.
Horrible stuff.
Yes, very, very horrible, very cruel. And
civilization, and that makes me go back to that Stanley Kubrick, movie where they showed the big black box like a TV and the monkeys. Yeah. And I always thought of Monkey See, Monkey Do, that they were showing them a picture of how you could hurt somebody, and so they learned that they can get the food by fighting and killing people with the
take it by force.
Yeah, exactly. They taught us that you deal with an extension of you. Essentially, you see somebody, you meet somebody, whatever in your life is an extension of you, and we're taught to instantly distrust that, attack it.
Right.
And
what is strange about that is that I did read different accounts where the Croatan tribe that they did tell the settlers not to do certain things or not to go certain places, and I'm pretty sure that they probably thought, hey, they're just it's just this Indian mumbo jumbo. I mean, it's there's nothing to be afraid of, and bam, they get sidelined by this power or something, and what I read was pretty much what the series, what the show says, Supernatural, is that it was what they described as a plague, that a person could become infected by it and spread it to other people, that involved intense violence and cannibalism. But even if that was the case, there would be skeletons, there would be bones that would be found, there would be DNA, but nothing. So my theory is that for lack of a better, without any further information, that painting by John White, where they look like that they're going into a portal, I don't know. I mean, a portal would explain how there's no trace, how they seemingly vanished into thin air, and it would also explain Orion Williamson in 1854 Alabama, how he vanished, Ambrose Bierce, Ameilia Earhart, and Black Bart. But what does the word Croatoan really mean? Is Croatoan a word for some kind of interdimensional portal? Could be. I don't know. What do you think?
I think this is something that we should pick up on, take a break, and come back. And I think you have some crazy stuff to share with us. if it can get even crazier.
Yep, it is definitely crazy, but we will take a break, and we will be back in 3 minutes. So hang tight and get your questions, comments, and your theories ready. Love to hear them. We'll be back in 3 minutes. See you then. And we are back. See, Randy, you say they have what we want, and we're gonna get it no matter what. That's exactly the mindset, which is very barbaric. I mean, that's a projection. Says let's teach the barbarians certain things. Well, that's projecting your own barbaric ways. I mean, it's like, why don't you take care of your own problems first before you call somebody else barbaric? But that's just the way it goes, right? I mean, that's history proves that over and over. This is something that I really dug for. I was, digging to find different, theories and everything about the Croatan tribe, or the Croatoan island, or the names or the tribes around Roanoke Island, and it says that that some of the Croatan tribe became what is now Cherokee Indian tribe, and that there were some Cherokee in North Carolina, in that area, what is now Dare County, North Carolina, and that the Cherokee are, get this, the scribes of the Old Hebrew. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we're talking, I'm thinking, wow, did I just read that right? The Cherokee are the scribes of the Old Hebrew, talking about the language. Okay. Now, just stay with me. I mean, this is explosive, but when you think about it, the tribes, the Micmacs up in like what's now New York, Maine, they were all part of this huge group, and of course they did have different dialects, different languages, and everything. But what I find very very interesting is that, and I will read this, is that the Montauk, Long Island, is
the Indians.
The Montauk Indians. Let me see here. The Montaukette or Montauk people were a Native American culture from the eastern end of Long Island, New York, and it goes on to say that as far as their genealogy, that their tribe were they didn't use the word chief or king or anything like that for their leader. They used the word pharaoh, and the last king of Montauk was David Pharaoh, and it is Pharaoh spelled Pharaoh, just like the Egyptian pharaohs. Okay, you take that into consideration with the very strange statement that Cherokee were the scribes of the Old Hebrew, and then you think about the Hebrews being in Egypt under Pharaoh. I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, and Shane, I found an article exactly what you're saying. It said, "Big Chief Rabbi, why Cherokees could be Jewish." If one American geneticist is correct, think of groups known to make up the 12 tribes of Israel may need urgent updating. According to Donald Yates, there is compelling evidence that within the Cherokee Nation of American Indians, mothers and other matrilineal forebears bear bona fide Middle Eastern Jewish genetic markers. The essence of my finding is that the Cherokee have had families of Jewish heritage in their midst since before Columbus, and that early Jewish traders married Cherokee women to cement their ties with the tribe. Mr. Yates, who is of Cherokee descent himself, runs a Colorado-based nonprofit website called DNAconsultants.com, which lets people track down their DNA profiles. So, and skeptics take note. Little caveat: Mr. Yates has been examining Cherokee genes for 12 years and is very confident about his findings, and he backs it up, his evidence.
There you go.
So very interesting.
It's it says here that says here that David Pharaoh died about 1875. A few mixed bloods are still officially recognized by the state of New York as constituting a tribe under Wyandotte Pharaoh, son of David. Now, so it's like could the Cherokee, could the Native American Indians be some of the lost tribes of Israel, and that's why they were decimated is because the English throne or the those looking to, I don't know, conquer the world, maybe they wanted to wipe out every bit of existence, every threat, everything. And you know what? They did a pretty damn good job of it, if you ask me. I mean, it's horrible, but they did. I mean, never. Well, if you can think of anything worse than the Native American Indian genocide, then let me know, because I can't think of anything that has been so barbaric and so atrocious. I mean, so horrific that has affected so many people. And for what? I mean, that's always the question: is why? Why? I mean, if it was just for land, then I don't see it just being for land. There was a reason, and but that's another show altogether that we should do. Is the
divine right to rule?
Right.
It all stems from that, them being told in time that is their right to rule and to conquer.
Right, but my question is to conquer. I just don't see it as showing up and just cleaning house. I mean, for me, I guess I just can't understand what the for me, there would have to be some kind of opposition. There would have to be some kind of threat. And with people back at that time, I mean, there was I just don't see why that they couldn't live side by side, and or both share the land or whatever. But
why would they want to share the land? And they said, "I'm here, get away."
Right, and that's just wrong. That's
that
is wrong. No matter how you cut it, it's just wrong.
Yep.
And but that's
eminent domain.
That's another show altogether that we will definitely get into, because the Native American Indians, there's a lot of mystery, a lot of knowledge to that, and we will also talk about different things, such as and upcoming shows about the different cases, different topics, such as the that very thing, the genocide of the American Indians, strange deaths and disappearances throughout history, people that were, seemingly knocked off, assassinated, like Jill Dando. We'll talk about Karen Silkwood, Dorothy Kilgallen, Lee Harvey Oswald, Jack Ruby, and we'll talk about people such as it's called the Somerton Man, and go back to the Elisa Lamb, who died under mysterious circumstances, Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, D.B. Cooper. That's very interesting, but these are, shows, topics that we will certainly get into, and then things like people who seemingly just lose control and go on shooting sprees or killing sprees, and it's not that they just lose control. There's always a reason, and so we have a lot in store, and anyway, yeah, it certainly seems like that tonight was the night we were supposed to do this show on August the 18th, the very important date as far as Roanoke Island mystery is concerned. But anyway, I believe we're going to call it a night. Cyril, do you have anything you want to add? Or
No, I think it was a good show, and I look forward to many more. Congratulations, 100 shows.
100 shows, yes, and I'll see, August the 28th. I believe that will be 1 year. So that's good, and we have taken time to really get some good topics and research and everything, and so that's why that we took a break, a hiatus, but now we're back. So we will definitely hopefully keep you entertained and share knowledge with you, and you share knowledge with us, and everything will be great. So anyway, well, I'm going to say good night, and to you all, and here it's almost 9 o'clock, so wherever you're at, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
And make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Good night.
Good night.